Hi, I'm Paul Halfpenny. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Filter, and I'm also the founder of PersonalizeWP. And I'm here at WP London tonight to talk about personalisation and driving conversions and revenue with those tactics.
Hello. It's exciting. Okay, so we're going to talk about conversions and driving conversions and revenue within personalisation. But first, just a little bit about me. I'm Paul. I'm CTO and co-founder of Filter. We're a fully remote WordPress digital agency with over 40 staff. We founded PersonalizeWP to go and do the WordPress plugin thing because we were interested in personalisation and we wanted to do product. I'm also an advisor for the Inside Out community. They're a community for in-house creative leaders based in the UK, trying to raise creativity up into the boardroom. Last week I won, slight brag, but I won their CEO and Leaders Beamer 100 award for 2024, which is quite exciting. Thank you. But more importantly, I really like Depeche Mode. So if anybody likes Depeche Mode, please come talk to me about Depeche Mode, because that's what I like talking about, really. And I also have a passing resemblance to an ex-England footballer. So if you know who that is, again, come and talk to me a bit later on. So I wanted to talk about personalisation, and we're just going to touch on what personalisation is and what it can do and who it's for. So if you go to Google and you type in personalisation, then it's going to come back and it's going to tell you that website personalisation allows you to create an experience for lots of different types of users, potentially on your website, but also other places as well. But it's going to be tailored to their needs and desires. And if you're in the UK, it's going to use an S, and if you're in if you're in the US, it's going to use a Z, because that's how we spell it over there. So what does personalisation help you to do? So if you understand your visitors, you can drive increased conversions and revenue through your website. And if you look at some of the reports that come out, and there's one there, a quote there from McKinsey on the screen, companies that excel at personalisation generate more revenue than ones that don't. And actually what's really important is that customers expect it, and they get frustrated when they don't have it as well. So at Filter, our agency, we use personalisation as kind of the basis for our CRO service for conversion rate optimization. So we're basically identifying those customer journeys around people's websites, collecting the data, and then helping them to drive further conversions. Who's it for? It's for everybody, obviously, personalisation. But these are some of the key sectors that we look at and types of businesses. So marketing agencies, it's great for people like us at Filter, as a marketing agency, to be able to have a CRO service that we can sell to our clients, so it works really well for those. E-commerce is probably the number one place for personalisation because you're trying to drive product purchases. Publishers, they use it, personalisation, to drive engagement and to show people different types of content. Small businesses can take advantage of it because they can show different opening times to their users. They might, if they're a restaurant, they might show different menus. Membership sites you can use personalisation to show people when they're logged in different content based on their preferences and their behaviours. And then non-profits can use personalisation to help drive larger and more donations and get volunteers more engaged. So I'm going to run through some of the basics of personalisation just so we're all on the same page, and there's 3 basic steps to personalisation. So the first step, the foundational step, is collecting data from your users. So in order to understand your users, you need to collect data from them. So the kinds of data you might start collecting, you might try and work out where they came from. So which source? Maybe they came from LinkedIn, maybe they came from Facebook, maybe they came from organic SEO, maybe they came from paid media. You might want to look at demographic data, so who they are, their gender, their age, things like that. You want to be tracking people around your website, so what pages are they visiting? What links are they clicking on? What content are they engaged with? And then you also want to look at things like the forms that they submit, because you're going to get data on them when they submit forms, and also the products that they purchase. And typically that's done using a JavaScript snippet that you install on your website. That's going to fire all that data back to a service, to a database that's going to help you build those profiles. When you've got those profiles and you understand what people are doing, you can then group them and segment them. So Segmentation is like labels in Gmail. You can pull people together and you can put them into different buckets. So you might have a segment, it's quite typical based on their location. So people from the UK, people from the US. You might have people that come from different social media networks and you put those into a group. Typically, you'll probably have and want to understand who was a new visitor, who's a returning visitor. That's actually quite useful. Or people that have an account with you. You might choose to put people in a bucket because they've got an iPhone so you can charge them more because obviously they've got more money. But then you're going to want to understand what pages they visited and how engaged they are with that type of content as well. So you can create, like, the possibilities are endless with segmentation. But importantly, if you process those segments in real time, it allows you to make immediate content decisions and allow you to personalize the content for people as they go around your website. And then the last part is about assigning value to the behaviors that people exhibit for you on their website. So lead scoring sounds a bit awkward. It's very marketing level. But basically what we do is when you go around a website, the actions that you take, we assign a nominal value to that. You can see some of those on the right. So David's visited the About Us page. We've given him 1 point. He's actually submitted a form a bit later on. We've given him 10 points for that. And what that means is you can work out how engaged somebody is with your brand or your website, and then you can target them differently because you know that they're going to be more engaged and they have more propensity to make a purchase or convert in some way. So how do you use personalisation? So the basic tenet of personalisation is showing and hiding different content or showing people content based on who you think they are. So at a very base level, most platforms tend to give you some personalisation rules that allow you to do that. And there's a couple of use cases there, examples on there. So for e-commerce platforms, when somebody comes back to your shop, if they haven't made a purchase but they're a returning visitor, you might want to show them a discount code so you can convince them to make a purchase this time. Or somebody comes to your site and they've got a high lead score. You know they've been to the site previously, they've gone around your site, but they haven't done anything. So actually we're going to give them some exclusive content to make them feel warm and cuddly. Or, as we talked about previously with a small business, you might just show different opening times based on their location as well, because you have different locations around the world. Another big use case of personalization is content recommendations. So content recommendations is obviously, is quite easy to do in WordPress if we know what category an article is in or what tag it has been tagged by. But actually, with AI and ML in the future, we can go a little bit deeper with that. So if we start tracking users around the website and start seeing the content that they can see, we can start to pick out types of content that are aligned and then show them content that we think that they're going to be interested in. So we have a client called Medivet. They are a veterinary client, and different people come to the website, and people with dogs, people with cats, people with small rodents. And actually, it's really useful for us to be able to go, well, actually, this person's clicked on 3 different articles about dogs. They're probably a dog owner. Let's show them content about dogs rather than showing them content about rabbits. Product recommendations is quite a big one as well. So obviously, e-commerce stores are very keen for you to buy more things. And you'll see lots of this with every e-commerce store that you see. Obviously, Amazon haven't quite cracked it because every time you go back, they show you what you've actually just bought the last time you were there, which is really annoying. But if you do product recommendations correctly, then actually we can work out what products we recommend for you, what other customers are looking at that also purchase the kind of products that you purchased. What complementary products might be interesting for you? There's some there on the right underneath the headphones. What other people in the same kind of segment as you actually chose to purchase. Personalized search is something that's becoming more and more prominent. So the more content you have, the harder it is for people to find stuff. So we know that search is really important on websites. But actually, search is underutilized from a personalization perspective right now, because somebody might be searching for the same term but have a different intent. So I was talking to somebody at Carter this week, and they have a lot of legal documents. And actually, when you're typing in a word, it's really important that you understand the intent of that word, and that we give people the right content for what we think they are looking for. So understanding where they've been on the website, what content they've looked at already, will help us to define the intent of the word that they're searching for. And that's going to help users as well. Email's a big one. Obviously, email is still a huge channel for conversion. And I think abandoned cart emails are probably the #1 use of personalization in this area. So somebody goes to your website, they've looked at some stuff, they've put it in their basket, and then they've gone away, and actually you're going to send them a follow-up email that shows them abandoned cart and say, come back and purchase this. But actually there's a bit more to it that you can do. So post-purchase, you can send follow-up emails with complementary products. You might be interested in this because you bought this. You can do welcoming or onboarding series of emails for people. And of course, you can do recommendations for other content that they might be interested in. But I think importantly, anything that you do is just a reason for them to return to your website and buy some more products. Okay, a couple of example conversion tactics. Location. Seems like a really obvious one. Actually, understanding where your customers are is really helpful to you, because you can show them things like local promotions that only exist perhaps in the UK or the US. You can show them locations of your stores in the country if you know that they're from a certain country. You show them region-specific products. So this is only available in France, for instance. And then you can also show them suggestions based on the weather. So obviously it's raining all the time in the UK, so we're always going to be showing people umbrellas. But in other countries, it's not raining all the time. So maybe we can show them different products as well. Returning visitor. We talked about this a second ago. Showing messaging to somebody to recognise that they've come back to your site and you know who they are is actually quite a powerful statement. You don't need to be really creepy about it and say, hi Paul, but actually understanding that they've seen your content before and showing them different types of content is a really good use case for personalisation here. But you can save their preferences, and then you can display products that you know that they might be interested in because you've seen them before. You could show them a special discount code or an offer as a loyalty for coming back. And you can obviously tailor the recommendations that you show them as well. With lead scoring, being able to target people based on that they're engaged is really helpful. So if you can focus, like doing personalization is not easy. We'll come on to that, some of the challenges of personalization in a bit. But you don't necessarily have the team or the opportunity to personalize everything down to the nth degree. So understanding who your most engaged people are, you can then target your personalization campaigns and tactics to the people that you think are the most engaged and the more likely to convert. So understanding that lead score is really important. And dwell time is quite an interesting one. So understanding if people are on a page for a period of time might indicate that they're quite interested in it. They are reading the content. They are thinking about it. So if you monitor their dwell time, perhaps they've been on your page for 30 seconds, actually there's a really good chance that they might convert if you give them a nudge. So if you could show them some content after they've been on the page for 30 seconds, maybe you can give them an offer, that's going to incentivize them to put a product in their basket and then buy it. That's actually a really good tactic to use. But it's not all easy to do. Like, personalization's been around for a long time. I know that we were doing personalization in 2013 with Sitecore. Boo. And actually, it was really hard because big enterprise platform needed a big team to be able to do it. So there's a lot of challenges with putting it in place. The key one for me right now that's most important is around privacy and data. So people are becoming more and more aware of why are you taking my data and what are you doing with my data and where's it going and who else gets access to it. But obviously, as we talked about at the start, when you're collecting data from people to understand their behaviour, you need to take this data to build a visitor profile with them. So I think you need to be really careful about ensuring that the data that you're taking is only what you need. Where are you storing that data? Is it going to get breached at some point? Is it going to get leaked? Will you be responsible for that data? Are you using cookies to store that data? That may not be the right option right now, because obviously the cookie apocalypse is coming and the cookies will die at some point. And this one we see a little bit more with the more enterprise side, which is, are you matching it with other audience data? So customer data platforms exist to pull together disparate data sources from different places and then build lookalike audiences and things like that. And actually, people get a bit freaky about that because they think that, you know, they're going to say something, or Alexa's going to hear it, and, you know, next thing you know, you've got an email in your inbox saying, would you like to buy that thing you've just been talking about in your kitchen? So you need to be careful, if you're going to capture data, that you're really clear on why you're taking it, where you're storing it, and how you're going to use it, so you can answer that question. Another big challenge is around cumulative layout shift, which is obviously part of core Web Vitals. Now, a lot of the stuff that we do around personalisation involves understanding that user and then injecting content back in the page. So injecting that discount offer, injecting a section of content. And once you do that, you're probably going to inject that with JavaScript, and it's probably going to cause a layout shift within the site. And then Google can look at that when it starts looking around your site for core Web Vitals and go, oh, there's loads of layout shifts. That's really upsetting and cranky for users. Therefore, we're going to minimize your CLS, or we're going to give you a bad CLS score, and then we're going to affect your ranking in Google. It's minimal, but it's worth thinking about, especially when you're putting a lot of personalization in. There's a couple of things that you can do to minimize it. So, you know, use reserve space, placeholders, lazy loading. One of the other things that's really key actually is optimizing the loading of scripts to delay that execution until a user has interacted with the page. So if you do that, hopefully Google's done its CLS scoring before your scripts kick in. And I mentioned about scaling the platform and the team. So the amount of data that you're going to be taking from people as they go around your website is going to get bigger and bigger with the more visits that you get and the more data that you collect. So where are you putting that data? Do you have the resources to be able to store that data? I know you can use personalization platforms to do that for you, and they'll store all the data for you. But obviously, the more data you're storing, the more visits you're having, the more recommendations you're making, the cost is going to go up. So that's going to be impactful for you. Having people with the right skills is really important as well, and having the right team behind you to do it. So it's quite hard, even as a marketing agency, to find the time to put in place personalised campaigns for everybody, because it takes up time. And also those campaigns go stale. So when you're putting stuff in place, you need to remember that actually you need a team to help you continue to do this. Personalisation is not in WordPress, which I find really depressing, because as we've worked with other platforms over the years, we've used with Sitecore, Optimizely, Kentico, Drupal, but that doesn't either. But those big .NET commercial platforms, Adobe, they all have personalisation but baked into core. So when we came up with this idea for doing personalisation back in COVID times, it was predicated on the fact that all the commercial CMSs had this, but we wanted to sell WordPress into the enterprise. And we couldn't necessarily do that if we didn't have personalization. So we were like, actually, we need to drive forward personalization in WordPress to allow us to compete at that level. And it's not for everybody in WordPress. You know, WordPress has a lot of users in a lot of different categories, but particularly for the enterprise, it's like a tick box exercise sometimes. Do you have this feature? Can you deliver this feature? And it doesn't quite have it. So we built our own plugin called PersonalizeWP. And it's a WordPress native plugin that does personalization, that does all the things that we've talked about right now, but it does it within WordPress. And we've tried to build it so it's no code, and it's got a roadmap, but actually it allows businesses to be able to put in personalization into their websites without having to go to really expensive personalization platforms. We've integrated it with the block editor, So we've got a bunch of personalisation rules out of the box. There is a free version of the plugin that just includes personalisation rules, such as all the location-based stuff, all the time on page, time on day, URL parameters, things like that. But we've also got a pro version of that allows us to do the visitor tracking, to segment and then score people around the website, and you can show and hide content. The roadmap for that is lengthy, as you would expect, but we will be moving on to things like content recommendations in the future and content variation blocks. I just wanted to finish up with touching on what I think the future will bring for personalisation. And I just mainly wanted to get that photo in because she's cool. So AI, obviously, AI is there all the time. Everybody talks to us about AI and what we can do with AI. And we're quite old school, and we don't always believe the hype trains. But I do think that AI will become that assistant for you in the background that just does all the grunt work for you that you don't want to have to do anymore. I know I use ChatGPT much more than I used to, and it's really useful for starting you off and kickstarting you with something. So I think that AI ultimately will help us scale personalisation in a way we've not seen before. So I think when I think about personalisation, I think we're always trying to get back to the corner shop, where you go into the corner shop and they'd know who you were and they'd know what you like to buy, and you can have a conversation with them, and they're like, well, I know you like beans, there's a can of beans, and you've already got it for you. And I think as we've become more digital, everything's become quite generic, and I think that AI will allow us to get back to the point where we can have those one-on-one conversations, because we will be able to generate infinite content. We will be able to generate masses of landing pages for everybody. But actually, it will help us to understand people better. It'll help us to have those conversations. And so I think there is, in my mind, an idea that hyper-personalisation is not necessarily that far away with AI. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. I just wanted to say, we've got, if you want to learn more about PersonalizeWP, there's go to the website. We've got a conversion boost event happening next week. We're doing a webinar, and the team are running that, showing some tactics of how you can convert people. If you'd like to go, do that, and also connect with me on LinkedIn and the dreadful Twitter. Thank you.